Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Legal Decipher. In the previous video, we had discussed about the basic introduction to the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. If you have not seen that video, you can go and check it. The link is in the description below. In this video, we will discuss about chapter 1 of the Indian Evidence Act. We'll go through the chapter and try to understand the substance therein. So if you are new here, please like and subscribe to this channel to get the video notifications. So let's get started. So today we are going to start the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. As you can see, it is the Act number 1 of the year of 1872. The preamble says, whereas it is expedient to consolidate, define and amend the law of evidence, it is hereby enacted as follows. So the very purpose of this act was to consolidate, define and amend the law of evidence. Now, as we have learned from the previous video that there are 3 parts to this entire Evidence Act, and we will cover the chapter 1 of first part. Now, in the first part there are 2 chapters. We will cover the first chapter only today. The first chapter talks about the preliminary things, and the first part is regarding to the relevancy of facts, as we have known from the previous video. We will start from the first section, that is short title. It only says this act may be called the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. As simple as that. Now, the extent of this act is that it extends to the whole of India. Now, it says here that it is except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, but as we all know, after the scrapping of Article 35A and 370, now Jammu and Kashmir is converted into Union territories of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir. This act is also applicable in those union territories, and it also applies to all judicial proceedings in or before any court. So wherever it is a court and it is conducting a trial, the Indian Evidence Act will be applicable in that court. It doesn't matter whether it is a civil court or a criminal court or any other court. It says including court martials. So court martials are also included, but only in the cases of court martials convened under the Army Act, the Naval Discipline Act or the Indian Navy Discipline Act or the Air Force Act. These acts do not use the Indian Evidence Act in their trials, and also not to affidavits presented to any court or officer, not to proceedings before an arbitrator. So arbitration is excluded, affidavits presented to any court or officer are excluded, and these 4 acts that deal with the armed personnels, they are all excluded. Otherwise, any court martial or any judicial proceedings before any court will use the Indian Evidence Act for their trials. Now, the commencement of act says that it shall come into force on the first day of September 1872. So it was drafted on 15th March of 1872 and it came into force on September 1st of 1872. Now section 2 was repealed. Section 3 talks about the interpretation clause. So section 3 includes all those terms that will be used further in the Indian Evidence Act that we will come across. We should prior hand know what they mean. So first is court. Now court includes all judges and magistrates and all persons except arbitrators legally authorized to take evidence. So court includes all the judges and magistrates and all other persons who are legally authorized to take evidence except for arbitrators. So the arbitrators do not constitute court. The second one is fact. Fact means and includes number 1, anything, state of things or relation of things capable of being perceived by the senses. So anything that can be perceived by the 5 senses of a human being are called fact, and those include facts. Or any mental condition of which any person is conscious, that will also be deemed to be a fact. Now the next one is relevant. So one fact is said to be relevant to another when the one is connected with the other in any of the ways referred to in the provisions of this act relating to the relevancy of facts. So we will read about the relevancy of facts afterwards. First, let's understand what the term relevant means. So when will we consider one thing relevant to another? So we will consider that one fact is relevant to another fact when they are connected. In what way they should be connected, we will read about them in the relevancy of facts portion of this Indian Evidence Act. Now, facts in issue means and includes any fact from which either by itself or in connection with other facts the existence, non-existence, nature or extent of any right, liability or disability asserted or denied in any suit or proceedings necessarily follows. So when will we call that this fact is in issue? When it is directly connected with that particular suit. So any right, liability, disability which is asserted or denied in a particular suit or proceedings, if the existence or non-existence or nature or extent of such right, liability, disability, etc. is proved by any fact, then that fact will be considered as facts in issue. The explanation says that whenever under the provisions of the law for the time being in force relating to civil procedure, any court records an issue of fact, the fact to be asserted or denied in the answer to such issue is a fact in issue. So whenever a civil court takes up a particular fact in issue, the fact that is to be asserted or denied in the answer to such issue will also be considered as a fact in issue. Now the next point is document. So what is a document? It means any matter expressed or described upon any substance. So if some matter is expressed or described upon any substance by means of letters, figures or marks or more than one of those means, then if they are intended to be used or they are actually used for the purpose of recording of that particular matter, then that particular substance containing such letters, figures or marks will be called a document because it expresses a matter or it describes a matter. Now the next point is evidence. So what is an evidence? It means and includes all statements which the court permits or requires to be made before it by witnesses in relation to matters of fact under inquiry. So there are matters of fact that are under inquiry in a particular trial, and if such witness is permitted or required to make any such statement regarding such matter of fact that is under inquiry, then those statements, all of them, will be considered as evidence if the court permits them or it is required to be made. And all documents including electronic records produced for the inspection of the courts will be also considered as evidence. Such documents are also called documentary evidences. So there are two types of evidence. First is oral, that is made orally, and the other one is documentary evidence, that is any kind of document or electronic record. Now the next point is proved. So when will we say that a fact is proved? A fact is said to be proved when, after considering the matters before it, the court either believes it to exist or considers its existence so probable that a prudent man ought, under the circumstances of the particular case, to act upon the supposition that it exists. So the court will think that a particular matter is proved or a particular fact is proved only when such matter is either believed to exist by the court, that means court believes that such matter exists, if or the existence of such matter is so probable that all the prudent man would, under such similar circumstances of that particular case, will suppose that yes, this fact exists. That fact will be considered to be proved. Now what is disproved? A fact is said to be disproved when, after considering the matters before it, the court either believes that it does not exist or considers its non-existence so probable that a prudent man ought, under the circumstances of the particular case, to act upon the supposition that it does not exist. So it is basically the exact opposite of proved. So when the court does not believe that no, this fact cannot exist, the circumstances of the case has made it evident, or if it is so highly improbable to exist that any prudent man would consider that no, this cannot exist, This fact cannot exist. So that will be called as disproved. Now the next one is not proved. A fact is said to be not proved when it is neither proved nor disproved. So it is left hanging. That is not proved. It is neither proved nor it is disproved. India means the territory of India, now including the Union territories of Jammu and Ladakh. Expressions certifying authority, electronic signature certificate, electronic form, electronic records, information, secure electronic records, secure digital signature and subscriber shall have the meanings respectively assigned to them in the Information Technology Act of 2000. So all those meanings will be considered to be the same as it is defined in the IT Act of 2000. Now let's move on to section 4. It says may presume, shall presume and conclusive proof. That is the last section of this chapter and it is a very important section. So let's understand this very clearly. Now what does these three terms mean? What does may presume, shall presume and conclusive proof mean? May presume means whenever it is provided by this act that the court may presume a fact, it may either regard such fact as proved unless and until it is disproved or may call for proof of it. So as we move on with the Indian Evidence Act, we will come across the terms the court may presume or the court shall presume or something that will be considered as a conclusive proof. We will come across these terms. So we will beforehand learn about them. So when the section of Indian Evidence Act clearly mentions that in this particular circumstance the court may presume this, then in that case whatever that section has mentioned that the court may presume this, then the court may presume it or may not presume it. The court may think that yes, such fact is proved until it is disproved, or the court may call for the proof of it. So it will be left upon the discretion of the court. But whenever the Evidence Act will say in any of its section that the court shall presume a fact, then the court will have no other choice but to presume such fact and the existence of it unless and until it is disproved. Here the term will be used in a mandatory sense. The court will have to think that fact is proved in a mandatory sense unless and until it will be disproved by any other facts. Now what is conclusive proof? It says when one fact is declared by this act to be the conclusive proof of another, which means if one fact is proved and the Indian Evidence Act says that if such fact is proved, then such other fact is also proved because this fact was previously proved. So they are directly interlinked. If this one is proved, the other one is automatically proved. Now here is a twist. When shall presume is used, the court will presume such fact, but it will also allow evidence to disprove it if such evidence is available. So you can give evidence in those cases where shall presume is mentioned. So where shall presume is mentioned, the court will presume it. But if you give enough evidence to disprove it, then the court will also have to disprove it if such evidence shows such disproval. But in case of conclusive proof, you cannot do that. If one fact is said to be the conclusive proof of another, then no evidence will be allowed to disprove that other fact because it has been termed as a conclusive proof. It is already proved and no further evidence will be taken to disprove it. That is the only difference between shall presume and conclusive proof. Conclusive proof is a purely binded case. It will not allow any further evidence to disprove it.
So that's all in this video. If you like my videos, then don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.